Joe Peters from MOMFIT with Joe Peters. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network and the Her Network on Single TV channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download and rate the app. Single TV is free and in all app stores, iOS and Android devices. While you are downloading, make sure that you leave a comment and rate. And if you don't want to download the app, please know that Single TV can be also found in Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and Roku Stick in all the smart TVs. And while you are there, if you are having a question, a challenge, a confusion about motherhood, about this marathon, please follow me at Joe Unicorn Coach on Instagram or Facebook and send me a message. I handle my social media myself. And if I cannot help you and support you, I will find an expert like Aimee that come to the show and we will do it together because MOMFIT mission is helping you to win the marathon of life without burnout. Now, I am super excited because especially we were talking in the backstage how challenging times are presenting everywhere in the world. And today we are talking about two things that mom need to eat and need to do to keep energy high, release weight and stay healthy. And I am super excited to be here with Aimee. Aimee is a licensed nutritionist from Washington State. In Alaska. She had a master in human nutrition. She had a license in the sports nutrition. And her entire life is being about personal training, nutrition, and understanding that huge part that not a lot of people understand because we have a lot of these gurus and experts that don't have even a certification and are just telling millions of people what they need to do. So I'm super excited to have Aimee here. Aimee also is being volunteering and the nutrition as a nutrition educator for the Seattle chapter of Frontline Adult and Young Classes. She was featured in 2010 as the featured athlete for Atleta. She's been completing 7 marathons. That is a huge one, including the Humpy Marathon in 2006 where she placed second place in her group age. She also was qualified for the very famous Boston Marathon, and she was the nutrition program coordinator for Kenmore Fitness and Self Motion. So she has over 25 years of experience and not only the knowledge, but the part that is so important of walking the talk, of showing how she feel her body impacts how she lives and is about to run all those marathons. She is an expert in emotional eating. I was talking that with all these things that are happening, there is a lot of emotional drinking and emotional eating right now. She's an expert in sports nutrition, how to eat when you have challenges like running a full marathon. That, by the way, motherhood is a constant marathon. And then nutrition strategies for professionals and goal setting for successes. So I am super excited to have you here with us, Aimee. Welcome to the show. I would love for you to tell us your story into why you start this journey and went so deep like you did, because there's a lot of people that take a 12-week program and that's it, and then they just keep that. But you start and keep going down and down and down the spiral, the rabbit hole into becoming literally an expert. I think that with everything that is on your bio, you probably are way over 10,000 hours
Yeah.
of working. That is what scientifically is shown that is need to become an expert in a field. So welcome. We are blessed and happy to have you here. And let's gonna start with sharing that part of your journey and how it became what it is now.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here and so very excited to share everything that I've learned in practice for over 20 years, as well as being a mother myself. So I don't just talk from like theory. I have personal experience there as well. My interest in nutrition started when I was a child, actually. I was 12 years old. I decided to become a vegetarian at that time, and it was the early 90s. And there were people in my family who were very concerned about my nutrition by choosing to avoid meat. And my 12-year-old brain was like, yeah, but everybody in India is a vegetarian. That's not true. But I was thinking there's a whole continent of people who are vegetarian. They're not dying. It has to be fine. So I went to the library to look at books so that I had information to present to my family so that basically so they would leave me alone. And that's when I discovered that not only can you be healthy as a vegetarian if you're very, very careful, but food, what we eat, has an impact on whether we're going to get heart disease, whether we're going to get diabetes, whether we'll be able to manage a healthy weight, all of the things that were so prevalent in the United States. And there had never been conversations in my household about how the food you eat impacts your ability to get a disease or not get a disease. Food and health was only a conversation as it relates to weight and losing weight. So for me at 12 years old, this was like mind blowing. It was incredible information. And I just became so fascinated with the power that we have to change our lives with every meal we eat, and how much food is either medicine or poison, depending on the foods that you choose and the amount of those foods. So I achieved 2 degrees in nutrition and my personal training certification because I also came to understand that food alone was not enough. I grew up in Alaska, and it is a state where for many months of the year there is very, very little sunlight. And when I became a teenager, I developed depression. And exercise was a way for me to cope with depression, and it helped keep me alive, to be completely honest, and sane enough to be able to graduate high school and then pursue studies in nutrition in the lower 48.
And one of the things that I love about what you are saying is so much confusion, and I was so guilt of that with my nephew, right?
Mm.
Because I felt the same. Like when this was probably 10 years ago, he didn't want to eat meat. And I think that is something that is being very clear with new generations. They are just by default like, and I was freaking out. And I was like, oh my God, no, we need to hide it. We need to make sure, because he was like 3 or 4. I was like,
Oh,
we need to
wow.
do it. And but then I started learning more and more, and then I became vegetarian and vegan for several years. So one of the things that I want you to share with us is, moms, we know that we are busy. We know that the amount of time that we have is very limited. How we can be confident that we are finding the information that is going to work for us? Because the other
Mm.
thing that I've been seeing, and I actually move away from one of those branches, was the vast majority of the studies and the tests and all that is being in males. And then
Yes.
they take them from there and generalizing and say, like, this is how you all need to eat. And I actually remember one time in a call of a pregnant woman that was asking the coach, that was a male, um, that she was craving fruit and that what she will eat. And he was like, no, 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 no. The best thing for your pregnancy is that you just don't have carbs and get ketogenic. And I was like when you are pregnant, and I was pregnant then, like literally one of the things that I craved was papaya.
Hmm.
And then, so how we as females can, without spending hours and 10,000 hours, filter through everything that is, because now in social media You find the ones that are saying being 100% carnivore and only eating meat is the way, and look at my results. And then you have the vegetarians, and you have the ones that are everything. There is so much contradictory information. How we can filter and start testing what works for us?
Yeah, it's very challenging. It is extremely challenging. Even when you have the amount of education that I've accumulated over the years, it is still, to some degree, quite challenging. And that is because not every person is the same. Some people will do just fine on a vegetarian diet. And I did well for a number of years, and then it stopped working. But nobody ever talks about that. Nobody ever talks about what if the thing that you're doing that works then stops working. Most of the advice on the internet is just do it harder, just do it more aggressively, just go more extreme. And oftentimes that's the exact opposite of what you need to do. You need to add in more foods, you need to add in more variety. It is difficult to get a sense of what is best for your body if you are listening to all of the voices outside that are not you, because no one can know what is 100% best for you when they're not actually talking to you. They're talking out to the internet, right? They're talking out into the world. And so it's important to keep that in mind when you are seeking advice and guidance from the internet. The other thing too is having someone or listening to someone who does have experience, listening to someone who has been in the stage of life that you're in. If you're a woman, listening to women and what women your age are doing. This is especially important for women who are 40, 50 years old. It's not the best idea to be taking menopause advice from someone who's 25. They can have a lot of book knowledge about that. They can be well versed in what the few studies there are on menopausal women that exist, but they haven't had the life experience and they haven't had the personal experience of going through that. But even if someone has, it doesn't mean that what's happening for them is appropriate for you, especially if there's something else going on like diabetes or weight issues that may make you in a different category than the person that is, talking to you on the internet, right? So these are things that are very important to keep into consideration. Another thing that I really recommend people do is avoid anything that is too extreme. Once you start eliminating food groups, whether it's meat, whether it's vegetables, whether it's all grains, you start limiting where you can get your nutrients from. We already have a major problem getting enough nutrients that our body needs to avoid disease, to have a healthy metabolism when you're eating a standard American diet, when you're eating a typical diet. So if anyone is advocating that you cut that back even more, that's a red flag. It's something to be very mindful of. What we want to do when we're thinking about the nutrition that's going to work for our bodies is ask, where can I get the most nutrients without having too much of the things that maybe don't work well for my body? If you have prediabetes or you have diabetes, that would be the carbohydrates, to be mindful of carbohydrates. You do not have to go keto. You do not have to go carnivore to get your blood sugar back in balance, or in some cases, even get off of blood sugar medication. It does not have to be that extreme. But what sells is the most extreme thing, right? And then it's really, unfortunately, it very much is a trial and error experimentation process where you are choosing to maybe lean towards a certain way of eating, but being a little bit more flexible about it, and then finding what your body tolerates and what your body doesn't tolerate. If something isn't going right, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily doing something wrong. It may be that that particular diet, that particular regimen is not the right one for you. For everybody, regardless of how healthy you are, or if you have a diagnosis of an autoimmune disease or diabetes, or you wish to lose weight, it's super important that you get those nutrients. The foods that we have that are the most nutrient dense for our bodies are vegetables and animal protein. And I know we just talked about being vegetarian, but the reality is that there are more nutrients and more protein per bite in meat and organ meats, especially. If anybody watching loves liver, or well, can tolerate liver even, it's wonderful. That is one of the most nutrient dense foods you can eat. And there are ways that you can sneak it into something that you already make. I made a lasagna for the family last night. I blended up 4 ounces of liver and mixed it in with the ground meat to put in the lasagna. So that way my son and my husband can get those nutrients too. And they don't taste it because you add a lot of garlic, you add a lot of herbs, and it hides it very well.
And those are the tips. And I love how you, this is something that I have a big movement into breaking the all or nothing, the black and white. And it's that like it's funny that you share your experience with vegetarian because for me it was the same. I did it for several years and then I stopped working. And I literally remember in that trip, I started smelling meat and it was a visceral desire, like to the point that I started thinking that maybe I was pregnant. Like it was something that I never felt before. Like it was from my gut. It was like this primal, like, I want the chicken and I want the meat.
Yeah,
And it went to understanding that it was a lack of B12 probably because I was being so long without B12 because nobody told it. Nobody like, yeah, label, oh, I'm doing this. But if you don't supplement it after so many years, then you become deficient. And when you become
exactly.
deficient, so I love that part of it's not black and white. It's not that you need to make how you eat part of your identity. And I think that that is what these big diets and these big gurus are leveraging to keep you there spending money and becoming rich, because then if this is who I am when I struggle, it's not because my body's telling me something, it's because I'm doing something wrong, so I need your guidance, I need to do your program again because I'm struggling. And I think that is that identity of we are this way of eating, we are in dividing into, we are doing the right, that is pretty much the same that we are doing in politics and
Yeah.
everything else in the world, and is divided in groups aiming that we are the ones doing it right. And I think that the danger is what you said, is when it stop working, we are so disconnected from ourselves that we prefer to assume that our body is wrong and
Hmm.
that external source is right, so I need to put more money there to get more coaching, to repeat the program, to do it again, like you say, like try harder, force myself. If 2 weeks are too hard, are being challenging, then I need to do 4 weeks without carbs and 6 weeks
Yeah.
without carbs.
Just wait,
So
it'll get better. It'll get better if you just wait. No, it doesn't always get better.
absolutely. And I loved your point also about the stages
Yeah.
of your life, especially for females, because I think this is a program for females, but males don't have as many stages. They probably maybe have two, like maybe adolescence, puberty, and that's it. Adult levels are,
After about 55, 60, they also go through kind of an andropause, but
yeah,
it's not nearly as,
as strong.
exciting.
But for us is when you are growing up as a teenager with your hormones, then when you get pregnant, then when you are in postpartum, then when you are perimenopause, and then when you are menopause, like it really, that was one of the things that like really break me into them trying to sell that the expert and the best person to take advice for perimenopause and menopause was a male. Or like
Yeah.
you have testicles and penis. You have all the studies, but your body's not designed to go through this.
It is a
So
hindrance, and, certainly there are going to be male practitioners, male doctors who have worked with only women for many, many years, who listen to women and understand what we go through, and, that is somebody that I would actually probably trust more over a 25-year-old girl, but it's still not the same if you haven't had the lived experience, right? And I don't think that we can throw that away as being irrelevant. I think there is just a shared commonality there and a shared understanding that I think is just very difficult to have when that experience isn't shared. I'm really glad that you brought up the identity piece, because I became a vegetarian for ethical reasons. I was an animal rights activist, I was an environmentalist. When my body was telling me I needed to eat meat again, I was on the board of my local chapter of Earth Save Seattle, which was a vegetarian advocacy group for the environment. And so there was a huge internal conflict for me, because I had been established in the area for multiple years. I was known as a vegetarian, and my body was saying, meat smells good. And I'm like, no, 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 it doesn't. It doesn't. We're just going to ignore that. And then I ignored it for a year, and then it started looking good. And I was like, oh my God, what am I? I'm just going to ignore this. This cannot be happening. And one day I had the realization that I live in an animal body. My body is an animal body. And I would never tell a client I was working with to ignore what their body was telling them the way that I was telling me to ignore what my body was telling me. I would never treat an animal the way that I was treating my body and deny it what it needed to thrive. And so I had this very powerful realization that I couldn't be in integrity and continue to be a vegetarian and ignore my body in this way. And so I tried, a little piece of meat, and I was like, maybe I'll just get very sick and throw up. We can be done with this experiment. And my body received it well. And then when I had more, it was amazing what happened. My focus, my energy increased significantly. I was satisfied between meals for much longer. My running improved. A lot of really powerful things happened when I brought meat back into my diet that I did not realize I had been missing, because I had been a vegetarian for 13 years at that point. And I went through my adolescence and into my adulthood without eating meat. So there was, I had no idea at that point what I had been lacking. And this was after having a degree in nutrition and doing it right. I wasn't eating macaroni and cheese and vegetarian hot dogs. I was having a healthy diet.
And I think that is so powerful, for because we are not saying that being a vegetarian is not good. I think
For
that what
some people, it's great.
we are saying that I think that the biggest thing for me hearing you is two things. The first one is, please do not give your power to outside resources and overrun what the wisdom of your body is asking you. If you are pregnant and your body is craving 3 layers of chocolate and ice cream, okay, maybe question where is. But if your body is freaking craving fruit, pineapple, papaya, trust that your body wisdom is craving for those essential whole things for a reason. The same
Yes.
when you are craving the meat. So it's about that is remember to go back into empowering your wisdom and your goddess first before you just put your trust and your power into what the others are saying, because they are literally, based on their experience, based on what they know, telling you, but they cannot feel what you are feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I think that the second one that is the resonate with me is seasonality.
Mm.
That I think that goes back into that part of not being extreme. That is what we are doing more and more. Is if I am a carnivore, I only have meat, and I'm being very proud. It's been this many years, and the only thing that I eat is meat and animal products. And then the vegetarians are the same, and the Steve, the guy from Apple, that only eat fruits. So those extremes are, like you were saying, lacking. And I think that is about seasonality. When I went to Africa for a little while with the Hadza tribe. That is an indigenous tribe in Africa, one of the oldest ones. And it was about seasonality because they still live with nature. So there was a time that the animals were in abundance and therefore the meat was abundant for both females and males. And there was a time that there were dry seasons and rain seasons, and there was not much meat. So there was more focus on veggies, and then there was more focus on fruit. So why we don't talk a little bit about that seasonality and then that balance, and then we will go into key things for these mamas to have some energy and start getting the connection between what they choose and how they feel.
Absolutely. So seasonality is very important because, for instance, in the winter, there is not a lot of produce available, and it's a time when it is colder. And what comes into season in the winter are more starches. Those starches provide carbohydrate that historically is supposed to keep us with enough energy and enough calories to live through the winter. And so when foods come into season, they have the nutrients that we need to get through that season. In the spring, we have berries, we have fruits that come into season that provide us a lot of vitamins to support our immune system as we go through that seasonal change. And this is also very supportive to the body. I'm having an issue with my battery. Hold on just a moment. Okay. Test, test.
I've been talking like a crazy with my mic mute. So um I don't know if you are hearing me, because I think that now you are froze. But what I was saying is that one of the things that I love of what you were saying is that we are being always categorized as witches and woo woo, and we have that witch womb as woman. And the reality is, um earth and the planet and the
Can you
connection between, I can, is
hear me?
cutting and your video is still frozen. So maybe it's an internet connection. But it's about us to not only trusting ourselves, but also start being connected again with earth, with that wisdom of earth, with that we see. And I was sharing, you are getting better now. I was sharing when I was muted that, for example, in Colombia, we have seasons here, and then it's like, okay, interesting that in these seasons these are the foods that come. In Colombia we don't have seasons strong, but for example, I was telling when I was mute about the tree. There is a tree that makes mangoes, or called mangas, and doesn't matter what you do, the only time that the tree give that fruit is between July and August. That's it.
Mm,
You better bet money that everybody in Cali, Colombia, my hometown, is eating as much as they can from that tree fruit, July and August, because the reality is it's delicious, and we know that the other 10 months of the year is gone. Like, we cannot find it. So I think it's
exactly.
important to get that alignment, that I love what you are saying, of not only honoring our own wisdom and our soul, but also start getting connected back with the wisdom of the planet and with the wisdom of earth into what they can tell us.
100%. And when you eat according to the seasons, the foods that you get are more fresh. They have more vitamins and minerals in them in every bite. They are grown and raised closer to where you are living. They haven't been trucked up thousands of miles away. In order for food to get to us and not be rotten, it has to be picked very, very early. If it is coming from somewhere like Peru, and it's getting into California, and when you pick it that early, one, it doesn't taste nearly as good, right, by the time you get it, and two, it's missing many of the vitamins and minerals that are best. Now, this is not to say that you need to be extreme and only eat strawberries that are grown in your state for the months that they're available. I'm not suggesting that at all. But when you are looking again for more nutrients per bite, favoring seasonal foods, favoring what is in season where you live when it's available, grown close to home, will ensure that you get more of the nutrients that you need for that time of the year and that are available in that food because it is fresh that time of the year. So it also is much more inexpensive. It's much cheaper and easier on your wallet to do this. I will say that if you are living in a place where something like, let's say, berries doesn't grow, or it's a very short window, or there are a lot of vegetables that are not available to you at certain times of the year that your kids really enjoy and or you really enjoy, getting them frozen is a wonderful option. It is wonderful. Many of the produce that is grown and frozen is grown and frozen at the farm within 24 hours of being picked. So sometimes getting broccoli that is frozen has more nutrients than getting it fresh in the grocery store if it has come all the way from Mexico and you live in Wisconsin. So we mustn't be very rigid also about where we're getting our nutrients from. The most important thing is to get your nutrients. And the most nutrient dense foods are those vegetables and fruits, as well as the protein coming from meat.
And I love that because when you were talking about the seasonality and where you are as moms, what a wonderful tip and way to start getting that knowledge to your kids into getting back. And I know that now is being big into that, getting back into using your backyard and start going outside with your kids and start learning and helping your kids to learn what we can plant in the spring to get. And like I know, for example, with my son, it's a huge deal when he can go outside to the side of the house and pick tomatoes from his plants because he water them, he plant them, so when they give it, you bet that he eat those tomatoes without any testing. So I think that is also a very beautiful tip for moms. And again, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You don't have to have a full garden full of all the veggies and fruits. You can pick just one or two things that you're like, okay, I'm gonna put this in my garden and I'm gonna eat this from my garden when it's the season. So I love that also came as a segue into integrate as a family. Now,
Exactly. Yeah.
Amy, I want to talk a little bit about what are some of the quick tips that moms can have um to get that energy and to um don't get the excuses, because I think that a lot of times we as moms get excuses like, I'm so busy that it's a lot easier to grab these in Starbucks because I'm running all the time. So, but then that is a cycle. But then we get the sugar crush, but then we get the caffeine withdrawals. So, what are some of those tips that they can start doing if they are interested and say, like, oh my goodness, I want to be like Aimee and run marathons? And what are some of those small steps that they can start taking?
One of the things I think that's easiest for mothers to do is to make a meal for yourself when you're preparing a meal for your children. Don't sacrifice yourself for your children in this way. If you are making your children's lunch for them to bring to school, that is when you make your breakfast. Or you also make your lunch to take with you to work if you're also working outside the home. Prepare for yourself while you are preparing for other family members. The other thing, too, is that relying on things that are pre-cooked and packaged can be like that can be a lifesaver, especially when you're busy. There's no expectation that you make all of your meals cooked fresh from home from scratch because most of us don't have the time to do this, right? So one of my favorite things to do first thing in the morning, make sure you get some protein. Protein is so important for keeping your energy level stable throughout the day so that you don't get that crash at 11 o'clock and then go and get a brownie or a sugary drink from Starbucks to prop yourself back up to get through to lunch, right? You want to have a good source of protein in the morning. This can be Greek yogurt. This can be eggs mixed with egg whites. This can be pre-cooked sausages. So what I often do is get like the Applegate pre-cooked sausages, and I just instead of they're in the freezer section of many grocery stores, and then I just put them in the fridge and let them thaw. They're already pre-cooked, so I can just grab them. If you want to microwave them for 15-30 seconds, you can. I'm lazy. I just eat them cold because I just don't care. And it gives me the protein that I need in the morning without having to cook anything. Greek yogurt is also a wonderful way. You don't have to cook anything. Protein smoothies are great. This is also a wonderful way to get protein and vegetables in your children first thing in the morning. You can make a smoothie for the entire family and add some protein powder in there, be it a plant-based protein powder or a whey protein or an egg protein. Those are wonderful sources. If you go plant-based because you cannot tolerate dairy, or because you avoid animal products, make sure that you get a sport blend because most of the vegetarian proteins out there that are dairy free do not have all of the amino acids or all of the like tiny building blocks of protein that we need to keep our muscle mass. So you want to make sure it is a sport blend because they add those amino acids in because athletes are looking for them. So you want to think of yourself, you are a marathon mom, you want to think of yourself like an athlete, go for the sport blend. If you are avoiding dairy or egg as a protein powder source. You can add that protein powder to your smoothie with a liquid of your choice, milk, non-dairy milks, juice if you have high carbohydrate, high energy needs, and then also add a handful of vegetables. It can be spinach, zucchini blends very well. The children don't taste it at all. You can do pumpkin, cooked carrots. That adds a nice sweetness, a very good holiday sort of flavor for this time of year. And spices too, like cinnamon or mint or nutmeg to add a little extra flavor. I'm also a big fan of adding cocoa powder to the smoothie. A tablespoon of cocoa powder is wonderful. Unsweetened cocoa powder has a decent amount of iron as well as magnesium in it. And oftentimes, when women are craving chocolate, especially around their menstrual cycle, they are needing more magnesium or more iron because of the extra energy and the extra effort that the body is putting out as it's creating that uterine lining that will then be shed. So chocolate cravings are sometimes actually your body asking for magnesium or asking for iron. And we know we can get it from chocolate, but if you skip the sugar and just get it from straight cocoa powder and put it in your smoothie, it's still delicious and it gives you more of those nutrients that you're looking for than you would get from like a Hershey bar.
Absolutely. And I love that tip with the kids. And actually, that was one of the things that I started with my son when he was, I think that he was 6 months, 5 months when I gave him the first smoothie. And then when he started growing, he started helping me to do the smoothies. And he started helping me. And then we have smoothies of different flavors. We put banana, we put strawberry, we put cacao powder. And then for him now is normal,
Yeah.
and it's not something that it is. And you're right, there are times that I put spinach or kale or things there for all of us and blend it and ask him, what do you want, what flavor you want. So I think that is one of the things, and I would love for you to hear your thoughts into why there is being this huge brainwash in media, in society, that I don't have time to eat healthy.
Mm.
Eating healthy is a lot more time. And I personally believe that that is just a marketing strategy for them to sell you their poisonous crap. because like I was talking with somebody the other day. I was like, I bring up, I'm really liking the red lentil pasta,
Yes.
because then if I have red lentil pasta and turkey, that a little plate had over 60 grams of protein. And then they were talking about that, and I bring the box and I said like, honey, how long it take regular pasta to cook? And they were like, well, around 20 minutes. I was like, okay, read this box. You cannot leave this more than 8 minutes.
Or it's
So,
mush.
or it's a smash, or it's not tasty. So you are actually spending half of the time making the pasta. So I would love to hear your input into why we have all that like blind eyes. Oh my god, I cannot do it because it's going to take so much more time that I don't have.
Yeah, some of that is definitely a misconception. I think too, what is really so full and lacking space is our brain, because all day, every day, we are in front of, for many of us, we're in front of a screen. Our phones are right there. We're getting input all the time, all the time, all the time. And we can't, it's difficult to think of where to find the time, to think of how to plan to take care of yourself when you are constantly distracted. So the first thing is to really just open yourself up to the idea that maybe there's more time than it feels like. And where would those pockets of time be? This, and then we look for, how do I get the food on my plate that my body needs more quickly? And the wonderful thing is that in most places of the world now, it is a better time to eat healthy conveniently than ever before, because people are concerned about their health. People are noticing how much harder it is to keep weight off, how many of their family members now have diabetes, how many diseases that our children have and that our family members have that was not common 25, 30 years ago. And it is, if you do nothing, if you just let life control where you go, you will get sick. That ends up being the default. You do have to swim upstream a little bit to change the trajectory of your health, but it does not have to be all hours in the kitchen chopping vegetables, doing things like this. Many vegetables, again, you can use the frozen vegetables. There are also many vegetables in the grocery store now that are pre-cut and ready to go. And so just get the bag of broccoli that's already been pre-cut for you. It's, yes, it's not going to be as fresh, but it is still better than no broccoli. It's still better than going through drive-through or takeout, to have something that is, that you can prepare in your home. It has fewer ingredients and it can be prepared quickly. My son prefers his broccoli raw. He doesn't like it if I cook it. So I was like, great, that's less work for me. I'll give it to you raw with some hummus, some ranch dip. It's all good. As long as you eat it, that's what makes me happy, right? So look for the shortcuts when you are in the grocery store. Look at the vegetables that are already pre-cut in the bags. Which of those does your family like? Do you like? Bring those in the house. The other thing too is, if you have a grocery store in your neighborhood that has a salad bar, you can take what the vegetables from the salad bar that you want, and then they're already pre-cut. You don't have to buy a huge bag, and you can just make what you take from the salad bar at home that night. Cook it up in a stir fry, add it to a soup, right? It's all done for you. It is a little more expensive, but it saves you the time of chopping the vegetables, and there isn't leftovers that could go to waste, because that's another thing that many people are very upset by is, I get all these vegetables and then they get pushed in the back of the fridge and then they go bad and then I feel guilty, so I just don't do it anymore. Get what you need from the salad bar, get it frozen so you don't have to worry about it going bad. And also choose vegetables that last longer. Our lettuces go bad very quickly. If you are one of those folks for whom it's very difficult to get to the lettuce before it goes bad, don't get spinach. Get something like romaine or collard greens or kale, because it lasts longer. Broccoli, cauliflower will last longer in your refrigerator than tomatoes, right? And avocados, forget it. Like, you never know what's going to happen with an avocado.
a
Don't
random
get it unless
lottery.
you're gonna use it, like, within 48 hours, right?
And I think that is beautiful what you were saying into making it easier. And I was thinking when you were talking about you training for a marathon, and we are in the marathon of motherhood, is it's simple and may not be easy at the beginning
Yeah.
because and I will challenge any mom to tell me what you did for the first time that you were like, oh, I just tried once and it's an easy peasy thing. No, work out, everything, even caring for your children.
Breastfeeding, that was not easy. That was hard
Yeah,
at
I'm still
first.
doing it. And it's that is being aware that the initial challenge is not because that is that brainwash is not because cooking healthy is hard and takes time. It's because you are trying something new, and because you're trying something new you have what is very well known, a learning curve. And
Yes.
when that learning curve pass, then you're going to start having all these tricks that Amy is telling you, and you're going to start thinking about all these hacks and how to do that. One of the things that I've been loving lately, and I know that it's not for everybody, but I cook a huge portion of ground turkey and chicken for the entire week. So I only do it like one day, maybe Sunday, maybe Monday. I spend, because the reality is I realize that it will take the same 20-30 minutes to cook this much that to cook this much. So then I just do this much, put it in the fridge, and then yesterday, for example, for dinner, we're like, what are we going to eat? We take that out, warm it up, and in 7 minutes we have a meal. So
Exactly.
I think that the advice that I'm seeing is trust yourself, connect with nature, and then start finding those tricks that may take some time at the beginning. I think that is good that we are honest. It's not going to be abracadabra as fast as you going through the drive-through, but as more you do it, as more you find things.
And do a little bit at a time. Don't try to do everything all at once because it will be so overwhelming and so frustrating. Choose the most important thing, or if it's actually easy for you, choose the easiest thing. Maybe the easiest thing for you is, okay, I already eat breakfast, but I just eat the leftovers from my children's plates. So I'm going to make myself a breakfast and I'm going to include protein in that breakfast. Or maybe the first step is I'm going to make sure that there's always a vegetable at dinner so that my children get exposed and I eat more vegetables. You choose one thing at a time and then you build upon that. And when I'm working with my clients, we determine like what's the first thing to start. We get some traction and then we add more things. It isn't like, here's everything you need to do. Here, go out and do it. Let me know if you need help. Like life doesn't work that way. In order for you to be successful, just like training for a marathon, actually, you have to build slowly so that way you don't overwhelm yourself.
That I think that is the message that we were talking at the beginning on the all or nothing mentality. That is, I think,
Yes.
that where we fail. That we are like, okay, I'm inspired. Tomorrow I'm gonna have all meals healthy and I'm gonna do veggies. And then as soon as lunch come and it's not possible, then what we are predisposed to do is, see, I cannot do it.
Forget it.
Yeah. Instead of saying, oh, I didn't do it for lunch, how I can do it better for dinner. So
Yeah.
it was such a pleasure, Amy, to have you in the show. Before we go, I would love for you to get one little simple advice for everybody that is listening. And if they are more curious about your energy and everything that you are doing, how they can find you, where they can find you, so they can keep learning from you.
Absolutely. So if there's one thing to take away, every meal, ask yourself, where will I get my protein? Where will I get my vegetables? If you start thinking about this at each meal, you will find the places where they will come in because you're looking for it. And it will also keep it top of mind so that you get more of what you need on your plate. I can be found on Instagram at Vibrance Nutrition. And I also have my own podcast called Blasphemous Nutrition. And I put out podcasts every week about the tips that we can do to improve our health, as well as diving into the science on various aspects of blood sugar regulation and weight loss. If that's something that is of interest to you, you can find me there. You can also reach me on my website at vibrancenutrition.com.
So please, everybody, go and follow Aimee and Vibrance Nutrition in Instagram. Send her a message. Tell her something that you love about this podcast and this show. And when you are following her in Instagram, make sure that you're following me too. We will love to hear from you. What do you have for dinner today?
Yes.
And what new veggie you try? And I love your tip. Where I'm getting my protein for, where I'm getting my veggies for. So Aimee, thank you so much for being here. And for everybody that is listening, happy Friday. And remember that this show can also be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out www.spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it.